Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day number 30 of our tips and tricks for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And it is Mischief Night here. And, well, that's what we're going to kind of cover is those mischievous employees. Not all threats are external. So, remember that Jurassic Park, the programmer that was there? He kind of programs the system to keep everyone busy for a little while he runs down and sells off the DNA sample for a pretty penny. Well, that kind of triggers a whole bunch of events, which ended up in a whole series of Jurassic Parks. Many times, when things happen with employees, you don't always have that overt malicious intent. Many times it starts as something simple, and sometimes they just want to move on to greener pastures, and they either don't have the moral compass to understand, or just really don't think about the implications of perhaps taking all of the contacts or emails or price lists or whatever. They may just not think about it. Now, is it ethical? Oh, certainly not. But it just may not be in their wheelhouse of thought process that they're really causing harm to the company. So, how do we control that from an IT perspective without being that kind of really strict, overly watchful, concerning, horrible, culture generating person? Well, I found that the best way is to just have your policies stated out front to make sure that employee contracts start with the plain language of you will not cause harm to the company and we deem these things to be harmful to us. Then what you can do from a ongoing monitor perspective is really just kind of lock down the devices. Like if they don't need to use USB drives for their daily kind of operations, then you lock those out of the systems. There's no reason for data to be exfiltrating, to be leaving your premise if it's not sanctioned. The other things we recommend, getting rid of Dropbox or any other file share service, because that is a conduit for which they can take information, put it and leak it to an outsized source without really maybe you knowing about it unless you're keeping a mindful eye. Now, a lot of this is pretty simple for most firewalls to do. If it's an advanced firewall, chances are very good it can identify all these various applications that allow data exfiltration and kind of give you a report weekly on what it is and how it is that those things are moving. If you have sensitive data, then additional measures can be taken to make sure that the data is protected. We always start every single time with protecting the data which is precious to you, which is precious to your constituents. We want to keep that protected. That's the whole gist of everything we're doing here in terms of cybersecurity and IT in general. We want to make it accessible. We want to make it do what it needs to do in the business, and we want to make sure that it is protected. So one of the ways of protecting it is to make sure it doesn't leave without your knowledge. Um, One other part too is email. Email is an easy way for people to kind of get rid of that data. So there are many ways, and this is again one of those topics where you really need to sit down and talk to a professional about it because there are so many aspects and facets to how you control data that a one size solution does not fit all. So there's no one thing that you can do. Now, there are some standards in place, like locking down the USB and having some types of monitoring on the firewall. Like those things are fairly standard. But we can also put in software that kind of looks at the user's access to, let's say, public shares and the amount of files. And they can actually look at thresholds, meaning that if that person looks at 5 files a day or 10 files a day, and all of a sudden they jumped up to 50 or 100 files a day, that's the threshold, then you can get an alert, which may be important. So there are tools that we can put into place to control that aspect of it. But again, most of the time that employees really, a lot of times they're not even causing harm. We talked about shadow IT, and shadow IT comes up again and again. It's really the employee's desire to be productive and efficient that drives a lot of installation of shadow IT. It's not typically to get around the safeguards that have been put in place, but to rather make their workday more efficient. So not always is it very intentional on their part. And I would say in my observations, most of the time, it's not intentional. It's just employees trying to do well, but not knowing well enough. And, a lot of times, again, this comes into complete culture and understanding, what everyone's position is and why they should not do things like install applications and stuff without asking the IT provider first, or internal IT or whatever is in place, to make sure that they go ahead, just like we talked about in Shadow IT. They have to research it, they have to vet it, and then they have to come up with a way to not only install it, but then maintain it after it's installed. So that's all I got for tonight. Happy Mischief Night, everyone. And tomorrow's the big day, Halloween, for us. And that will also be the 31st, which will be the last day of our Cybersecurity Awareness Month tips and tricks until next year. So until then, stay safe, stay online, and have an awesome day. Bye-bye.